Welcome to Superhero Stuff You Should Know. We are back to cover more amazing spider shit. This is the Amazing Spider-Man.
Amazing Narfield. Pleased to
Yes.
make your acquaintance.
And the amazing stuff we're going over today is kind of the basis for one of the most critically reviled franchises right now, which is the Sony Spider-Verse. So that's Venom, Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, Morbius, the upcoming Kraven the Hunter, Madam Web. This is all part of the same supposed
I forgot about all
Spider-Verse.
Madam Web, yeah.
Yeah, and there's been a growing sentiment that, like, hey, these movies, just fuck it, just cross it over with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Like, they're established to exist in another universe, another world anyway from Tom Holland, and, you know, Andrew Garfield did get shortchanged the most out of the Spider-Man actors.
Yeah.
But the actual idea of a Spider-Man cinematic universe with spin-offs from the Amazing Spider-Man films, that was actually in the works around the time of the Amazing Spider-Man 2. So there is some basis anyway for crossing over Andrew Garfield into the spin-off movies. And we're going to dive into the Unmade films that were proposed at that time. The biggest one being the Sinister 6 movie, which we'll cover in the second half. The first half will cover sort of like all the other little things we know about some of the spin-offs that were proposed or at least announced at that time.
Okay.
So clearly, Amazing Spider-Man 2 was trying to set up a lot of stuff. So they had Green Goblin saying that he was going to recruit a team against Spider-Man. You got Rhino at the end. We have deleted material that we went over last week with his dad still being alive, with Mary Jane being cut from the second movie, but presumably a love interest for future movies. Norman Osborn potentially getting resurrected. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that just never got paid off. So
It's a mess already.
Yeah, but they were trying to set up sequels with the Amazing Spider-Man 3 and 4, and a Sinister 6 spinoff, which again we'll talk about in the second half, because that's the one where we have the most information, and that one actually had a lot of, well, not a lot of attachment, but like there was a lot leaked out about that. So let's go into it. The Amazing Spider-Man 3 was announced. It was supposed to be for a release date of June 10th, 2016, with the writing team of Alex Kurtzman, Roberto Orci, and Jeff Pinkner returning to write that and the fourth film. They did write on The Amazing Spider-Man 2, so if you liked Amazing Spider-Man 2, same team would be back for the next two movies.
The Dream Team.
Yes, with Amazing Spider-Man 4 in May 2018. So we don't know a ton of the details. Again, they were presumably trying to set up more stuff with the Green Goblin, more stuff with Rhino. Presumably, Chris Cooper's Norman Osborn would have something bigger going on than just dying in the second movie, given this and that deleted severed head scene from last week. But we don't know much. But we do know a little bit about what was proposed. So we're going to take you back to nearly 10 years ago. Do you remember when Sony was hacked? And all those emails came out.
Yeah, vaguely, yeah. I forgot about that, but yeah.
So, for those who might not remember, this was all, and I don't remember finding stuff that verified this, but Sony was releasing a movie called The Interview with Seth Rogen and James Franco, I think, which was about interviewing Kim Jong-un.
That was a big deal at the time. I saw that.
Yeah, and North Korea apparently was pissed, and North Korean hackers then hacked Sony.
I didn't know that was the reason. I forgot about that.
Supposedly, and supposedly that's the reason. They were so pissed off at this movie, they hacked Sony. Reportedly, 173,000 emails and 30,000 documents were leaked out during this time.
Wow.
And Amy Pascal was in charge of Sony at that time, so a lot of emails that weren't supposed to be public information then became public information. They were leaked out on WikiLeaks. And people were following it due to all the various things that were going on. But one thing also it revealed was a lot of the behind-the-scenes Spider-Man shit that was happening. So I will put a disclaimer. It's possible that since there were these leaks that other fans came along and made some other shit up during the same time and stuff got confused. I'm trying to keep this as accurate as possible given what's been in interviews as well as what was actually posted in WikiLeaks, assuming that was part of the hack. But I will save the crazier rumors for the Patreon, because some of the stuff I read, I'm just like, there's no way that's true. But then again, it is Hollywood, so you never know.
Who the fuck knows?
So there was one leaked email that was a proposal from an exec over at Sony Pictures. He was the executive director of creative advertising at Screen Gem. So he was not in charge of a Spider-Man division. There wasn't a Spider-Man division at this time. His name was Juan Capdet, again, director of advertising, creative advertising at Screen Gems. But he had this whole proposal type of thing because I think he was trying to gun for the position of being like the Feige for Sony, is what it feels like.
Gotcha.
They were like, hey, the MCU was this huge, monolith at this point. Warner Brothers might be getting their shit together, is what they said in the in the emails when it came to, because at this point in 2014, right, Man of Steel had just come out, and they knew that DC was trying to set up their own cinematic universe. They didn't know what that was going to turn into, but in 2014, when it was just Man of Steel, people were still somewhat optimistic, even if the Man of Steel reception was a little, mixed. And so Juan Capdet basically proposes a shit ton of movies. And so keep in mind, this is one guy's vision. This is not necessarily things that were actually in development, but it is worth talking about.
Okay.
Because some of these ideas are interesting. The first one is called Amazing Spider-Man, Kraven. Now, we are getting a Kraven movie at some point. It was delayed due to the strikes. I still love your reaction to that when you're just like, oh, no.
Oh, yeah. That was, oh, my God. Like, who really wanted this?
Right.
I mean, if it's somewhat decent, I'll see it. But there are some that we skip, right? Like, we both skipped the Josh Trank Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And a couple others, Ghost Rider 2 for me.
Catwoman.
You never saw that one, right?
Didn't see that one either. Yeah, I only saw the first one a while back.
If they dip below, like, not that the reviews are everything, but if they're dipping below 30%, I just can't waste my time.
Yeah.
I can't even waste my time in streaming.
Just have it in the background when you're brushing your teeth or something.
If it's like at 28%, I just can't make the time for it. I'm just not going to do it.
I understand.
So if Kraven is around that, it's not going to happen. So yeah.
And people have been making fun of the Kraven trailer and stuff. And I will say this. What Capdet proposed for an Amazing Spider-Man related Kraven sounds much cooler than what we're getting.
Okay.
Partially because the cool elements have nothing to do with Kraven. So I'll explain.
Okay.
It says, in a never-before move, we do a prequel to Amazing Spider-Man 2. So this is an in-between installment of another adventure with Andrew Garfield. You still get to have Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy because she hasn't been killed off yet. Okay. And you explain a lot of Norman Osborn. So it says Norman Osborn is still alive but increasingly getting sicker. He has seen and heard of Spider-Man from the previous movie, Amazing Spider-Man 1. And having seen that he was wounded by the police shooter, he's hired a Russian big game hunter, Kraven, to track him down and bring him in. Norman believes that in Peter's blood is the key to cure him, which fits into what you see in Amazing Spider-Man 2, with the whole idea that Peter has this magic blood that's going to cure the Osborn disease. So it says Kraven ultimately captures Peter/Spidey and supplies Norman with vials of his blood. Norman, in an attempt to synthesize a cure, actually ends up becoming the original Green Goblin and transforms into the ultimate version.
Norman Osborn does, right?
Yeah, Norman Osborn doesn't this time. So he predates Harry. That way we get to stay true to the comics where Norman's the first one. Spidey and Gobby battle it out, with Gobby running away weak, which leads us to the frail state that we see Norman in Amazing Spider-Man 2. So I'm like, this sounds much cooler than the Kraven movie, partially because Kraven is like one element. If anything, it's not really a Kraven movie. It's just another Amazing Spider-Man movie, but set in between previous installments, which, we haven't really gotten much of at most Black Widow, and this sounds cooler than Black Widow. So
Black Widow was mostly just boring, I thought.
Right.
But I mean, there's some cool scenes, but
this sounds cooler.
This sounds cooler. I just feel like the producers in the room, they were like, I don't think the audiences will get it. Like a movie in between. I think that audiences are smarter than that, but I can just hear the producers already, the John Peters of the world, say something like that, and that's my gut tells me that's like one of the main reasons it was shot down amongst everything else.
Yeah. Keep in mind, this is one out of several projects too he was pitching, so like it could just be that they're just like, all right, like stay in your place. Could have been coming from Amy Pascal. I don't know. But
at least he got to pitch. That's awesome.
Yeah. So this is his vision, which frankly still sounds better than what we would end up getting. So
I mean,
yeah. So far, his Kraven one sounds much cooler. Here's the next one, which is cool because if you think the in between quill is confusing, Mr. Producers, this one would have been really weird. So the idea was 2014 was when Amazing Spider-Man 2 happened. 2016 would have been Sinister 6 and Kraven. Then in Capdet's vision, 2017 would be Spider-Man 2099, a live-action Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara.
It's well liked. Keep going. Sorry, keep going. Let's you finish.
It is. So like I can see why they're just like, hey, like this is why we want a whole. This is how a cinematic universe of Spider-Man alone will work, is if we go off of other versions of Spider-Man, because it can't just be like, well, it's Spider-Man and then a bunch of movies about his villains, I think is what they were trying to say. So they wanted Spider-Man 2099 to be their Captain America in a way, and that'll be explained in a bit. So his idea was that it will be set in a futuristic New York City of 2099. Miguel O'Hara is Spider-Man in this version because it's in the future, and he faces off against Alchemax, which is like this evil company. But they also considered the villains Morlun, who is on the left. He's a guy who he goes after, I guess, different versions of Spider-Man throughout the multiverse in order to try to devour him.
Looks like Vandal Savage meets Morbius.
Yeah, I know, right? When I first saw him, I'm just like, is this guy related to Morbius? So
yeah.
And then on the right is obviously a version of Venom from 2099, whose name is Kron Stone. So they were thinking of either one, but ultimately Miguel O'Hara does defeat the villains, but somehow ends up getting sent back in time to present-day New York City. So that was their idea of how to make it Spider-Man 2099 is the Captain America type thing where he's like sent in time. It's just in this case he's sent to the past rather than the future. Interesting idea.
Yeah, it's fine.
So the next one is one that actually did happen, which of course is Venom. But again, Venom officially set in the Amazing Spider-Man universe. Again, I know that a lot of people want the Tom Hardy Venom to cross over with the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. We'll see what happens. But there were plans to have Venom in the Andrew Garfield, or at least related to Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man movies. In fact, in the trailer for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, on the left, this is only in the trailer, not in the movie, on the left, you can see the symbiote.
Oh, wow. I forgot about that. They took it out for the movie, huh?
They took it out for the actual movie. But there were talks that it was going to be Alex Kurtzman, one of the guys who was writing Amazing Spider-Man 2, 3, and 4. Kurtzman would direct. Orsi would work on it along with Ed Solomon, another writer. And the idea was, from Capdet, was that it would be the ultimate version of Venom. So things are a little different, just to explain. In the traditional version of the story, right, like the symbiote comes from space. It comes from the Secret Wars, attaches to Peter. So it's an alien being. Eddie Brock is like a rival, reporter type guy who has a vendetta against Spider-Man, ends up getting a hold of the symbiote after Peter's had some time of it and becomes Venom. In the ultimate version of it, the symbiote is not alien. It's actually made in a lab. It's genetically engineered, which would fit what we see in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 trailer. And Eddie's father, Edward Sr., would have been colleagues with Peter's father. Again, also bringing Peter's father into the story once again, which is, repetitive at this point in the third or fourth movie or whatever. But it fits with what's already been established. So it would have been Eddie Brock Jr. from the Ultimate story, quote unquote, with some of the traditional Earth 616 details. But in the end, it says Spidey defeats Venom, sends him to Rikers. Coda shows the birth of Carnage.
I don't like the Ultimates version as much, I feel like, but
yeah.
I mean, it would have been Venom versus Spidey.
Yeah, right.
So,
yeah,
would the suit talk to him? Because if it's made in a lab, is that an artificially created consciousness? Because if it's the symbiote comes from a symbiont planet, et cetera, and like they're aliens and they need a host, so like it just makes more sense whenever like it's talking to Eddie.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, I don't remember if the Venom symbiote talks to him in the Ultimate Comics. It's been years since I read that one. So, but I think they would have carried that over, but I don't know. Let us know in the comments because I don't remember that.
Especially with like movie science, you could like make a symbiote with its own consciousness, but it's not the worst thing, but I don't know. I prefer the other way.
Yeah. Capdet wanted Venom in 2018, which he did get his wish, I think. Just not the same version that he proposed. So that's cool. The same year, they wanted to do... there's been a mix of different things, but in 2018, he proposed Black Cat. Hold on, this is Venom. Black Cat. So now Black Cat was Felicia Hardy in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. She was Harry Osborn's assistant, played by Felicity Jones, who people more remember from Rogue One. But she's kind of set up as the Felicia Hardy, but there's nothing Black Cat at all about her in Amazing Spider-Man 2. She's just kind of an assistant character. She's just literally an Easter egg. I don't know if they really wanted to continue with her version, because in Capdet's write-up, he says, quote, Felicia Hardy gets properly introduced. We see her get her quote-unquote luck powers from Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin.
She has luck powers.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
I don't remember. It's got to be in the cartoon. I don't remember much.
So
costume
she does
is
have
distracting enough.
She
She does the powers.
She does have some powers. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's not exactly like Catwoman.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah. But most people remember the costume for good reason.
This is very telling of you, but yes, it's a very good costume. It's hotter than actually. It's gonna be a crazy hot take, but I think it's probably hotter than even Catwoman and Batman.
Yeah, there's more skin.
There's something about it. Yeah, there's just something about it.
So it says eventually she has an encounter with Spidey. It ends with an understanding that she is not the bad person she appears to be. So that's Capdet's version. Sony actually did hire the woman on the left, Lisa Joy, to work on a script that was supposed to be featuring Black Cat, but also feature other. It was supposed to be the female-led Spider-Verse movie.
This woman on the left is a writer.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Well.
Incredible.
Unless Dan pulled up the wrong picture. But yes.
Our Patreon mode is sinking into our main show mode. Anyway.
So, yeah. Black Cat 2018 from, that's Capdet's version, but they did hire Lisa Joy to write a script. And I'll have more information about that in the Patreon, because there's a whole other mess about what they were proposing. And
she could play Psylocke, bro.
She could. She does look like she could.
That's a Psylocke look right there.
It's unknown to me whether they were really seriously considering having Felicity Jones come back, or would just say that, oh, never mind, forget that assistant character. This is the real Felicia Hardy, because apparently they were circling other names around this time for Black Cat, even though Felicity Jones had already played the role in Amazing Spider-Man 2. But I doubt that sometimes people forget that she was even in it, so it wasn't even that memorable of an introduction anyway. So
we're going to have a movie in the middle, and then we're going to switch Felicities in the middle of this thing. Back and forth.
Yeah, so that didn't go over so well.
Actually, this is not the middle one, though, anymore, is it?
No, the Kraven one's the one in the middle. So it would have been,
this
Sinister
is a different
6,
one.
Kraven, Spider-Man 2099, Venom, then Black Cat, then here's the big one that they wanted to do in 2019. So this is he called this the payoff level event. Carnage.
God.
So.
I mean, sick, for sure.
It would have been, it says Cletus Cassidy makes his debut, and it will be a team-up like no other to take him down. So this is why this is the last one out of this first phase. It's Peter Spidey, Spider-Man 29, because now he's in present day, Venom, and Black Cat join forces to take down Carnage. Basically, it's Maximum Carnage, but with all these guys.
It's a great idea, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I really wish they did this.
Yeah, again, this guy has better ideas than what they've actually been doing. Instead, we're getting Madam Web.
We all wanted that one.
So,
Oh man, yeah.
Capdet even said hard PG-13 with a possibility of an unrated, bloodier version for home entertainment.
Oh, that's what I want in my life. Yes.
So,
I mean, I like that more than the Sinister Six idea. Like Spider-Man and his villains having to team up against a worse guy.
yeah.
That's always like fun, and Carnage is the worst, and he's not been made into an anti-hero just yet. He's still bad as hell.
Yeah, yeah. So, this was not the last one he proposed. I think Captain was a huge fan of Spider-Man 29 because he wanted to do another Spider-Man 2099 film, except in this version, it's the Miguel O'Hara Spider-Man stuck in present day, and he's trying to keep his, quote-unquote, his, I guess, future grandfather, it says, alive in order to save his own existence while fighting the Scorpion. The Scorpion would have been the villain for this one. And he battles the Scorpion in order to keep his grandfather alive. So I guess it's kind of a Terminator-esque sort of thing because he's trying to like keep a certain individual who's important to the timeline alive, as well as trying to go back to this time period of 2099. So, yeah, I mean, look, this guy is... At first, I'm just like, okay, what is this creative, advertising exec? What is he going to come up with? And then I read the actual roster of his ideas. I'm like, you know what? This is way better than what we got.
He got in the room. He got in the room, didn't he? Must have done something right. So
yeah,
that's cool.
Each one of these, I'm like, you know what? That could actually work. All these things that he talked about could actually work in terms of like a Spider-Man specific cinematic universe.
All this is better than what we've been getting.
Yeah.
Venom 2 was like an accident. Andy Serkis directed the fuck out of that.
Yeah.
Like, but the rest of them haven't been good, really, to be honest with you.
So, yeah, it's been, obviously his ideas didn't really get to go through, but this is sort of some ideas that were sent through the pipeline that were leaked out in WikiLeaks. And, I mean, like I said, it's better than what we ended up getting, and it does show that this was better. There are actually some good ideas when it comes to the idea of a Spider-Man cinematic universe, because it was kind of like, all right, like you're trying to milk the shit out of this because you only have one character out of all the Marvel stuff. But I can see
milking it with Madam Web.
Yeah, they certainly are. Yeah, here at least Spider-Man's involved with the other ones. You have your own, because again, this is before they make the deal with Marvel Studios. So they're making their own Spider-Man movies with Andrew Garfield, with their own alternative Spider-Man with Spider-Man 29, and then you got your anti-heroes with Venom and Black Cat, and as well as like the Sinister Six. So you've got like a fully fleshed out universe with multiple different franchises going on. So it could have ended up working.
They really
needed this guy's idea.
I never even thought about a Feige for Sony because they've been fucking up so much. I never even got there mentally. Mm-hmm. But they really needed that. It really shows some. God, I mean, Zaslav is controversial to say the least, especially with the strike stuff. Mm-hmm. But at least he knew he needed a guy. Yeah. Well, you got two with Safran, but Gunn and Safran, like, he at least knew these basics, so we can thank him for that, I think. But Sony, whoever's in charge at Sony, they just haven't gotten there yet, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they didn't. So this guy tried to gun for it. Clearly, obviously, it didn't end up happening, but he had, like you say, the gumption and the gusto. So we applaud him for that, because this would have been kind of cool, actually.
It must have been a hell of a pitch session. That's so cool.
So that's what was proposed. But the big one that was really pushed through the pipeline was the Sinister Six movie. And at first, again, I had a similar reaction to you about it, where I'm just like, it seems kind of stupid, right? Like this early on in the timeline, barely any of the villains are established. Then you're overcrowding this movie with that. It's very forced into the Amazing Spider-Man 2 as well. But when I looked at the details, I'm like, okay, there's some promise here. And so we will go over all that stuff after the break. All right, everyone, it's October, and once again, it's time for announcements. So, for those who have been following along, Neuverse Creative has produced a 3-parter of my adaptation of the Batman '89 comic series by Sam Hamm and Joe Quinones. It is a streamlined version of the comic story, and because we couldn't have Easter eggs that were visual, since it's an audio drama, I put in some Easter eggs that are in the narration. Now, I believe it might be out by the time that this gets released, but Neuverse Creative will, they previously announced or they previously released it in 3 parts. There will be an overall full cut released in one of the entire audio drama that will be slightly extended as well. So if you actually heard it in all 3 parts, you can hear the full-length version all edited together with a slightly extended ending. And it'll also include some trailers of upcoming audio dramas that I was involved with, including ones that you might have heard previously before in another episode where we edited it in. So you'll be hearing a lot more of those coming soon. So that's what I got when it comes to the Neuverse Creative stuff. Stay tuned and subscribe to them as well if you want to hear more of their stuff. Now, it is also time for our charity drive, and this one is for a friend of the podcast. So Billy Grysack is in charge of, the Clubhouse Club room, Everything Entertainment, and that was something that we shout out to every now and then in past episodes, and they sort of helped us. It was through that room that I met Rob Ailing over there, and nice. Billy, unfortunately, is he was a cancer survivor, and unfortunately, he has cancer again. In battling cancer, he has set up a GoFundMe over at gofundme.com/f/Billy-Grysack, and go over there, help support Billy. He's a great guy. He's a huge fan of superhero stuff, and just want to do what I can to help him out. So please do that.
Please check it out. The link is in the description.
Yep. And then over to Andrew.
Okay, everybody. So please check out metalforce.ninja, www.metalforce.ninja. By the time you guys get this episode, the Kickstarter will be over. And also we're the Twitter is Super Metal Force, so you can find us there, and the Instagram is Super Metal Force. No, sorry, the Twitter is Metal Force Movie, and the Instagram is Super Metal Force, and the Facebook is Super Metal Force. So check us out there. That way you can keep up to date with us as we continue all of our things as far as Metal Force is concerned. And then and also thank you to everybody that donated. So awesome. So we will continue to chug along here. And the other thing before I'm done is Gaming Gaiden is coming back for a second season. And we're close to finishing the recording. The way we do Gaming Gaiden is we record the whole thing and then edit and then release, those 10 episodes in 10 weeks. So season 2 is almost done entirely, and we'll start releasing soon, probably November. We'll see. Stay tuned for that. If you guys are into that kind of thing, it's a video game podcast I do, and it's called Gaming Gaiden. That's Gaiden. Gaming Gaiden.
Nice. All right. And that's it for October. Thanks again, guys.
Tiptoe through the tulips.
Nice.
Nice.
I can just roll on in if you can.
Yep, I can too.
Let me get a swig, actually. On.
Sure.
Okay.
Cool. All right. We're back, Spider fans, and we're going to go over the Sinister 6 movie that never was. This was the one that was the most furthest along out of all these, because the other ones beforehand were just kind of pitches, little ideas, but here I think a script was actually written. It has not leaked out, but I think a script was actually written, or at least in development at this time. So
you mean North Korea didn't leak this one?
they leaked certain things about this.
Okay.
They leaked certain things about this, but there's also interviews as well that are verified. So there's some stuff that is more than just what was leaked out.
Can North Korea just at any time hack an entire movie studio? A major fucking studio? Like they were just not caring until that point. Like they could leak everything Marvel's ever done, probably. Like it's just wild to me.
I'd love to see the not saying that I would wish hacking upon anybody, but just from the sheer entertainment value of all the behind the scenes, bullshit that ends up happening. Would love to see all just the misfires and the behind the scenes DC Warner Brothers stuff in terms of emails or things that are proposed or messes.
Let's put it this way for the internet. We'd like to see a documentary.
Yes.
Made on this.
Yes, with more stuff revealed.
That's done very legally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, thank you for giving us the legal version of that.
Yeah, we just got to be careful.
So, in case anything happens, it wasn't because of us.
Well, we're just jackasses on the internet. So that's why I always disclaim it.
So, the Sinister Six, they first appeared in the Amazing Spider-Man Annual #1 from Stan Lee and Steve Ditko with letters by Sam Rosen. Here they are in one of the first panels that featured all of them in that
Is
comic.
that Sandman right there?
That is Sandman.
Okay,
favorite
got it.
dude. Yep. So,
who's your favorite out of these? Okay, other than Doc Ock.
Mysterio. Mysterio or Vulture.
Yeah, that's right, man. Like those three right there, they're like the best.
The center three, yeah.
For sure, yeah.
So, this is for those who are listening in, the lineup is from left to right on the visuals. We're looking at Electro, Mysterio, Doc Ock, who's usually the leader, Vulture, Sandman, and Kraven.
Okay.
So this was this was definitely the first time in Spider-Man history when all the villains teamed up together against Spider-Man, and that's why it's such a major issue. And of course, created the Sinister Six. There's been different Sinister Six lineups throughout the years, and in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, they kind of tease a different lineup. So, Green Goblin wants Gustav Fires, the Gentleman, to recruit a team against Spider-Man, and when the guy walks into the lab, we see all this type of shit. We don't see the symbiote like in the trailer, but we do get to see the Vulture wings, the tentacles of Doc Ock, and of course the Rhino suit that Paul Giamatti wears at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2. So that's all sort of there, and in the end credits, they hinted at the lineup with these visuals. So from top left to bottom, it's Vulture's wings. Then in the center, that is like Kraven the Hunter's arrow or symbol. Mysterio's, it says mask in here, but it doesn't really have a mask. It has a fishbowl helmet.
It's a fishbowl.
I guess they didn't want to just show a bowl on the top right.
They didn't want to say bowl. It's fine. That's, whatever.
Yeah, because you can see the eye hole, right? Which he doesn't really have in the bowl. But whatever.
Oh, well.
The Green Goblin's got glider. The center bottom is Doc Ock's tentacles. And then it's Rhino's horn on the bottom right. So this kind of makes sense, right? You've already got Green Goblin and Rhino set up in Amazing Spider-Man 2. You've got the Vulture wings and the tentacles from Doc Ock in the background. And then Mysterio and Kraven would come around. So that's kind of what it seems like, right?
Yeah.
And Electro's kind of already killed off in Amazing Spider-Man 2, which seems kind of weird considering he's part of the original lineup. They could have easily just kept him alive. Then you'd have 3 villains set up, and just half of your villains, but whatever.
Yeah.
Here's what ends up happening is they already set this up before they have anybody attached, I think, to Sinister Six. And when they do attach it, it's they end up attaching writer-director Drew Goddard from Cabin in the Woods.
Okay,
so
right.
He's their guy for Sinister Six. They aim for 2016. And they basically did this this is not a surprise at all. They're aiming for 2016 because they know DC is coming out with their villain movie, Suicide Squad, and they want their own equivalent to it.
Of course.
Not knowing, of course, what's going to happen with that one, but they're just like, we want our own version. We got the Sinister Six. Why don't we have our own Sinister Six movie? So they hired Drew Goddard to do this. His version is said to have been inspired by ensemble team-up films like The Dirty Dozen, The Wild Bunch, and he also cited William Friedkin's Sorcerer as a major influence. I've never seen that, but Sorcerer...
I've never seen it either. That's cool, though.
...is a big one, yeah. He even advised, in the leaked emails, he advised the other Sony execs to watch it so that they would get an idea of what his vision would look like.
Now I'm intrigued. I want to see that later.
Yeah, me too. So you've got Goddard behind the wheel on this. This is why I'm just like, okay, this is starting to look cooler than what it seemed like, right? He also
Cabin in the Woods was written by Whedon. I thought he didn't direct it. Co-written by Whedon. But Drew Goddard directed it.
He wrote and directed it. So it's written by Whedon and Goddard and directed by Goddard.
Got it. That movie was like way good, dude.
Yeah.
Did you ever see it?
It's on my list for Halloween, especially with this episode. I'm like, well, now I got to see this because, I did all this research on this one dude.
Just a quick thing again, but it's like, it's one of those, like, it's a horror movie that, like, it does all the things you want it to do. Mm-hmm. It's like, it just goes there, bro. But no, but seriously, it's like, I'm going to spoil something very quick about it. There's a unicorn in it, and the unicorn impales a dude, and it's like bloody. it's like okay, this is awesome. It's a real awesome horror movie, dude.
I think Goddard's plan was to do in Cabin in the Woods, what he did for horror films. He wanted to do this for superhero films. He wanted to kind of twist things, and he also felt like the key. Because on paper, right, Sinister 6, I'm just like, great, you got 6 villains. The last movie could barely handle 3. How the fuck are you going to do this?
Yeah.
So,
man, yeah.
Goddard says you don't make the way to prevent overcrowding is that you make the supervillains protagonists rather than antagonists. Think of how that's why he was looking at ensemble team-up films like Dirty Dozen, Wild Bunch. He also later cites Magnificent Seven, Guns of Navarone. Like, to him, it's just like, if they're antagonists, then you've got one guy who's your main character against all these underdeveloped people. But if they're protagonists, then you get to split some time amongst all of them, get to know all of them, and kind of get to care about the bad guys in a way. So that was kind of the idea that he had. And he did not want to go with the same lineup that was teased in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This is where things get even more interesting. His plans do not feature Green Goblin or Rhino or Electro. None of the villains from The Amazing Spider-Man 2, or even 1, Lizard's not in this either, are in this pitch. So his lineup is very interesting. So Doc Ock would be the leader again.
Okay.
Like in the comics. So we would bring in the Amazing Spider-Man universe version of Doc Ock. Then Vulture. So Vulture's still in. Then the Sandman. He has a very specific version of Sandman, by the way. We'll get into it later. Mysterio. And then to add some female power, Black Cat. So this makes sense. And then this last one was surprising to me. The 6th member of the Sinister Six is Spider-Man.
Whoa. What? Okay.
Yeah. So apparently Spider-Man Crawl Space is this fan site that helped sort of me with the research because they posted the actual links to the WikiLeaks of all these. So all their stuff is verified.
This is still up?
Leaked out.
All this is still up?
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
So they presumed that Goddard was inspired by the Ultimate Spider-Man series, Ultimate 6, by Brian Michael Bendis, where Spider-Man is forced to join with the villains. So I thought that was kind of funny earlier in this episode where you're like, oh, I think it's cool when Spider-Man has to team up with the villains. I like that better than Sinister Six. I'm like, well, wait till you see what happens with Goddard's.
Well, Ben, who are they going to fight?
Yeah. I'll get into that.
Okay.
It gets
Morbius.
Yeah, it gets really weird. No, it's not Morbius.
He starts sucking all of them off.
You'll be surprised with some of the things that were proposed by Goddard, but
honestly, dude, it's another good pitch that they did. They were like, we're gonna make Venom, Web, and Kraven instead.
Yeah. So again, they wanted one of their main characters to be Doc Ock in this one. In this one, Doc Ock's he's not the hero, but he's one of the main characters. And they kind of use, according to one of the leaked emails, they kind of use Spider-Man 2's origin as a jumping off point, even though it's technically a different, continuity, where like in Spider-Man 2, they came up with the idea that he loses his wife in the same accident where he ends up getting the tentacles attached to him. And apparently they were going to go with the same idea with this to kind of give him a tragic origin. And I think the overall premise was that Doc Ock and Spidey are forced to work together, and you can kind of see a partnership form, but eventually Doc Ock, it's kind of his origin story, so it becomes more on the bad side by the end. And so their friendship kind of becomes the classic Doc Ock and Spider-Man rivalry.
I mean, Breaking Bad broke the mold and all that, right? Like, we can follow the bad guy, no problem.
Yeah. And Goddard is also citing he's going really ambitious here. He's citing Michael Corleone from The Godfather, saying this is the quote greatest birth of a villain / protagonist as a villain. Not sure if it's exactly analogous to Ock, he says, but I like the idea of Ock as a character you are totally rooting for, even though he does bad things. And obviously the transformation from innocence to experience. Both characters, him and Spider-Man, are essentially motivated by family. And there would be an idea where, like, quote, you really feel that they are friends and want them to be on the same side, but Ock has to do something that makes Spidey and the audience realize they will never be able to be on the same side again, because the birth of Doc Ock's story is only complete if you end it with the establishment of the iconic Spidey rivalry. So this is kind of cool.
I mean, if Gunn keeps his promise of letting the DCU be way more director-driven, you know, we're getting we can see, directors' pitches like this. Yeah. It's like, just let them have their vision. If we see this with Spidey or any other superhero movie or anything really, it's like it breathes, fresh air into the genre for sure.
Yeah, because this sounds way more interesting than just like, it's just a bunch of villains fighting a bigger villain type of thing. Like now it's like, okay, Spider-Man's part of the team, and you're kind of doing in some characters a redemption story, and in other characters the opposite, especially in Doc Ock's case. And in Spider-Man 2, like, yes, you saw like the friendship dissolve very quickly once they got the tentacles, but like, what if that was more drawn out? What if that was developed in a different way? I think is Goddard's take here. So I don't think anyone was actually given an offer in terms of the casting, but during these leaks, there's a bunch of names that are batted around.
Oh, cool.
So, the big thing is they weren't sure whether or not they could get Spider-Man in this movie because, Andrew Garfield apparently had signed a 3-movie deal for 3 Amazing Spider-Man movies, right? So, okay. He was like, well, does this count as the 3rd Amazing Spider-Man movie? Because even though it's not technically the Amazing Spider-Man 3, it's a movie where I'm playing Spider-Man and I'm one of the main characters. And he would want, of course, to be paid the same salary as he was when he was a lead in the Amazing Spider-Man 3, because he's also a lead here. And I think Sony was trying to basically use the excuse that this was not a Spider-Man movie to try to not pay him as much. And I think
shakedown again.
This is one of those loopholes in Hollywood that you see a lot, where it kind of explains a lot of these spin-offs or times where they try not to count them towards the original contract because it's not technically the same title as the previous movies. There was also something that was revealed earlier this year during the strikes that have been going on, where like Disney Channel does this, where like after a certain season, actors are supposed to be paid more, but then they change the title of the series, and so it's no longer season 4, it's season 1 of a newly titled series.
They will do anything to save a buck.
So,
which is, there's a limit to that, right?
Yeah.
Like it just gets ridiculous.
So there is a possibility. This is also why I'm just like, I think there was a script written, but maybe it was just still in development, or it's just on lockdown in Goddard's hard drive or something.
It might not have gotten to script level. It might have gotten to treatment. Yeah. I don't see. This is like, it's still very early pitch level. I don't know if there might not be a script for this. I mean, there could be, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if there's not.
Yeah, if this is all just emails going back and forth.
Yeah.
So they aren't sure if Garfield is going to be in it, but if that's the case, then Goddard's like, then you have to have a star as Doc Ock. And if you're going to have a star as Doc Ock, especially this version of Doc Ock, who's a little younger, you also have to go different from Alfred Molina, because Alfred Molina is the last like vision they had of Doc Ock. So his proposal was really interesting. His proposal was Doc Ock played by Matt Damon.
Okay.
As a young Doc Ock.
Matt Damon has still stayed away from, other than the Deadpool shit, like he's kind of stayed away from the superhero genre.
Yeah. He's done those cameos, but that's about it, right?
Brad Pitt too. I mean, there's a certain level of star that's like, they're just like super A-list, like Brad Pitt, Matt Damon. God, who else? Like a bunch of them. Like, Leo DiCaprio. Like, because he was told by Scorsese to not do superhero films, so he's following that advice. But apparently, DiCaprio is a fan and does like the movies and likes. Jonah Hill talked about this. DiCaprio was like going crazy over Mandalorian or something. And Jonah Hill is like not into genre shit at all. Anyway, this is interesting casting.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm like, okay, this is not who you would think of for Doc Ock, but I think
Yeah.
maybe that's the idea. And if you're going to go different from Molina, you're probably not going to cast another, guy who looks like Alfred Molina to play the role. You're going to cast somebody who's different.
Matt
So-
Damon's payday is going to be lower than Garfield's.
Yeah, that's the other
Also,
thing.
like that doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't. Yeah, that doesn't. In which case, you're better off. You're better off keeping Andrew Garfield on and having someone who's not Matt Damon as Doc Ock. So
Yeah,
but again, that's Goddard's choice, not necessarily who they would have definitely gone.
A starting point. Like I need this kind of guy at least. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of other possible choices. I'll save a bunch of these for the Patreon because some of the times the names are just the names. But the person he really wanted was
If he had his
Tom-
druthers.
if he had his druthers, was previously Bane, future Venom, Tom Hardy, but as the Sandman.
Oh,
So-
down step. Hardy made out good on this one.
Yeah. Goddard really wanted Sandman to be the comic relief, but with powerful superpowers in this movie. So he wanted somebody who was the complete opposite of the Thomas Hayden Church one, who's kind of a fucking Debbie Downer in that movie, and he wanted somebody who was just complete chaos on this. So he even drafted an email that he wanted to send to Tom Hardy.
We're doing something different. It's time to celebrate the bad guys for once. We're inspired by the classic teen mission movies Dirty Dozen, Magnificent Seven, Guns of Navarone. We want that spirit, that swagger. If the Spider-Man franchise is the Beatles, then we're the Sex Pistols. Flint Marko is gonna steal the show. The character is pure id, the anarchic enthusiast of the team. A chance to have fun while celebrating being bad. Tom embodies that anarchy, that triumphant nihilism. We've seen him tap into that spirit before in roles like Bronson. But now we have the chance to crank the volume up to 11. He's gonna storm through London at the end like God fucking Zilla. That is not purple prose. He's going to be as tall as a skyscraper. In the third act of the movie, what does Doctor Strange have? Magic tricks? Fuck you, magic tricks. We've got a skyscraper Tom Hardy knocking down buildings. This is a fucking email. This is so fun. I didn't expect it to be this fucking fun.
So I know Sandman's not your favorite, but
That's cool.
Tom Hardy channeling Bronson while he's a fucking skyscraper tall and being like this anarchic comic relief amongst Spider-Man villains sounds pretty fucking amazing.
I love the Sex Pistols thing too. Like
Yeah.
they haven't really gotten like the punk rock or metal Force.Ninja. No, but like they haven't really gotten like a punk rock or metal kind of vibe in superheroes just yet. Like I thought that X-Men movie, that what was it called? New Mutants? That seemed like that was gonna be in that direction, but that got like a 25% on Rotten Tomatoes or some shit. So I never saw it. I mean, I haven't looked at the score, but I heard it was bad. I never saw it.
Yeah, same here.
Maybe that score isn't correct, but anyway. So like, I would love for them to kind of do that with one of the movies. It'd be cool, like that. The woman, oh man, what's her name in Deadpool? She's sort of punk rock.
Domino?
The other one, I think she's a lesbian character.
Oh, Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
Yeah, didn't Grant Morrison create her too, which would make sense. I think
Maybe
I think he
Morrison
did.
created her, yeah.
Correct me in the comments, but I think he did, and like she's definitely punk rock, and that's cool. If there's like a whole movie of like just her and like another punk rock type of team, that'd be very cool. I think.
Yeah.
They've just never done this. I've always thought X-Men could be very punk. Well, it has been in the past, I'm sure, but like.
For a movie, though.
Yeah, for a movie, and maybe not the main team, but one of the like, shitty. There's a group of shitty teenagers at the X Mansion, and they're all punkers. I think that'd be cool. Anyway, fucking sweet email.
Yeah.
And the guy, I mean, this is Goddard wrote this.
Yeah.
I mean, I like him more and more every time. The more and more I know about him.
Yes. So this was the team, or at least the vision for Doc Ock and Sandman. There's not a lot
Yeah.
that I could find on his version of, Mysterio, or even what Spider-Man's going to go through in this. But those are the most notable in terms of the individual characters who are part of the team. There's not a lot of story details, but you did ask about the villain. So here's what's interesting.
Okay.
Was that he wanted to play around with breaches in space-time continuum, either caused by Doc Ock or someone else. But a lot of the stuff would have taken place in an area that I didn't even think was possible for Sony to have, and that's the Savage Land.
Wow. God, X-Men connections.
Yeah.
This guy was fucking going for it, wasn't he?
Yeah.
My God.
So the Sinister Six movie's starting to sound kind of actually awesome, isn't it?
They're fighting fucking dinosaurs. Who are they fighting in the Savage Land? That's what I want to know now.
They're fighting dinosaurs, yeah.
They're fighting a saber-toothed tiger.
So they were going to fight Gog. Now, for those not familiar with Gog,
dude, what a pull.
Gog is... Are you familiar with Gog? Because I had no idea who this guy was when I first read this.
It's not Gog and Magog from Kingdom Come and the Bible.
No, but it's
something
named
else?
a similar reason, right?
Okay.
Apparently, he's an alien who crash lands in the Savage Land and is raised by Kraven, which I guess is also another reason why, Kraven would have been good to be in this. But
He's raised by Kraven in the Savage.
yeah, and does appear
God
in
damn,
a
dude.
Spidey/Kazar team up in Amazing Spider-Man 103 and 104, and in another story is freed accidentally, or intentionally, by Doc Ock in order to recruit him as a member of the Sinister Six. So,
Dude, it's just wild as hell, dude, but it's great.
yeah. So
Did you feel the same way
when I read that
about
this was gonna
reading
be him?
about all this shit? You're like, this is an awesome idea?
Yeah, no, I was because at first, again, I thought the whole Sinister Six as a movie idea was stupid, because I was like, they're supposed to just be Spider-Man villains. Like a Suicide Squad made more sense to me than Sinister Six because it at least has a whole bunch of comics where they're a team and they do stuff. They're the protagonists. Sinister Six, I was like, ugh, like what are you gonna do with that? Like it's better to just lead up to them fighting Spider-Man. And even then, it's just six villains you've already seen before fighting Spider-Man. So
yeah.
it didn't seem that appealing until this guy comes in and is just like, here's a Doc Ock you've never seen before, Sandman you've never seen before. Oh, you think it's just going to be them versus Spidey? Think again. We're going to the Savage Land fighting dinosaurs and an alien monster.
If you had not spent money on 3 different movies, Morbius, Kraven, Madam Web,
Yeah.
I mean, you
Coulda had
wanting to
this.
make a Venom movie makes sense for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, without Spider-Man it doesn't, but anyway. But still, I get it. Like, if you pulled that money and made this, we'd be in a different world now. Like this was, God, this is like, it's so wild, but it's fun as hell.
Imagine if Sony got this out in 2016, they would have wiped the floor from Suicide Squad. People were just like, fuck that movie. We want to see
100%.
Sinister Six with Andrew Garfield.
One of the things that I loved about the Aquaman movie was that it, like, even though it's not a perfect film by any means, it really went there too. It really, they pulled out like every fucking stop just about for that goddamn movie. Like, he's fucking talking to Krakens. There's a big ass, voiced by what's her name?
Julie Andrews.
Julie Andrews.
Yeah, a hell of a pull.
I mean, it's like it doesn't stop at any fucking point, dude. And they go to that lost land. This is what makes me think of Savage Land. They go to that lost land, and Nicole Kidman's got the skull suit, which looks badass as fuck. Like, that was cool. That was a cool plot point. And we had just fought the trench before that. Like, fuck, dude. Like, Mark Bernardin said it best. There's a lot of movie in that movie.
Yeah.
and like, it has other problems. One of them being a pit bull. But anyway, no offense. Not
Yeah,
that
that's
he
just a small element compared to
not that he gives a shit, but
all that
anyway,
stuff, yeah.
yeah. But like, this reminds me of that. Like, it just doesn't. Like, this movie would not stop. Probably this movie is like constantly moving. This would have been constantly moving. So
Yeah.
it's really fun, man. It's really
Yeah.
fun.
So some of the details I've got in the leaked emails come with the dispute of, can we actually use the Savage Land? So The information I've got is that it first appeared in Marvel Mystery Comics number 22 in 1941, but it wasn't called the Savage Land until X-Men number 10.
It's just a fucking dinosaur land.
So
you could call it something else, probably.
Yeah, Sony wasn't sure if they had the rights, and yeah, I mean, I think the easiest solution would have been to just call it something else. You can't call it Dinosaur Island, though, because that's DC Comics. But
yeah, Dinosaur Island. That's a good name, too, but, like, I mean, yeah, send the email to Marvel's legal, right?
Yeah.
And then fucking figure it out, and if you can't, it's not like they own dinosaurs.
yeah.
And they probably got GOG, so they could still do, like, 99% of this idea.
Yeah, I think they could do GOG because of, the GOG showing up in the Spider-Man stuff. But Savage Land, there was a dispute, and Amy Pascal, head of Sony, said it was top priority to find out if they could actually do this, saying, I suggest you guys get in a room this morning and go over Drew's pitch and what is in Savage Land comics, make sure we are okay and not in a situation where they can find any faults. We have known for weeks that Drew was setting his story on a tropical island of dinosaurs and time travel portals. Jesus. We cannot be in a vulnerable position in any way in this story. This is top priority for today. So, like, Sony wasn't fucking around. They wanted this. They wanted Drew Goddard's thing to work.
Go fucking nuts. And, that would have been so cool. I mean, a lot of times, I guess it's just budget that keeps it from going absolutely nuts, but, yeah, this would have been such an awesome movie, dude. You guys would have killed it.
So
Andrew Garfield would have been saved before No Way Home.
Yeah.
In the public eye.
Yeah.
It's wild as hell, but at least it's fun as hell also,
I know, right? Like, this is not where... Like, it would have made up for Amazing Spider-Man 2, for sure.
Oh, yeah,
if it's as good as we think it is.
Yeah.
They thought... Yeah, they also had to check to make sure they had permission to use GOG as well. And some of the emails that went around were talking about how, like, GOG is this giant humanoid creature from another dimension, and they want to make sure that they honor the cosmic stuff because they said they don't want to be the quote-unquote shitty Fantastic Four movies treatment of the Silver Surfer and Galactus.
Dude, Goddard sounds awesome. That's what he said?
I think that was
somebody
Sony
else.
Exec. I think it was
Sony
Exec.
Oh,
but I could be wrong on that. But still, right? Like the thinking was like we got to beat the competition and we got to make it good. So
we got to be that competition now.
Yeah,
that's from Oh Brother Where Art Thou.
They also thought of an idea of Doc Ock having an ulterior motive of springing GOG, kind of like in that comic. I mean it's crazy. So many of these things are insane to think about with what could have been with the Sinister Six movie. Now that we know what it was and the characterizations they had in mind that were very different from what Sam Raimi had in mind when he did his movies. So that's pretty much what we got because history ended up winning out. Marvel, Sony made a deal. Also, Sony had the big hack that leaked out everything. But I think Sony really wanted to have the tie-ins with the MCU because they knew that would, have them get to have somewhat of the same cash cow of the Marvel stuff that was going on. And so they ended up making that deal with Sony producing the movies, Marvel distributing them, and allowing a new Spider-Man, Tom Holland, to cross over into the MCU with the other superheroes. Drew Goddard was considered, apparently, there was a Hollywood Reporter article, actually, he was considered to be the director for the reboot for what would become Spider-Man Homecoming. I'm not really sure what happened, but
I vaguely remember this, I feel like. Yeah.
But it's okay because he ended up doing Daredevil.
Oh, right.
He ran Daredevil.
See, this guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, imagine if he got to do Daredevil and Sinister Six, and then you get D'Onofrio's Kingpin and that Daredevil. I mean, I know that people are presuming that that's going to happen soon, but that could have happened years ago in some way, in another, alternate reality.
Man, I mean, yeah. If you think about, well, you haven't seen it yet, but Cabin in the Woods, completely, like, fully fleshed out, everything you want to happen does happen in it and more. Like, again, you get that vibe with this treatment that we're hearing with this, you know what I mean? Like, it'll kind of do everything you want a Spider-Man movie to do and then some. You know, so I would have been so great. I know I keep saying the same thing over and over, but I'm very impressed by this.
Yeah, because it was not a concept that either of us thought was going to be that great. So when I was going to do the research for this, I was thinking, all right, but we're going to be like, we were better off without it. And now at the end, I'm just like, this was way better than anything. This is all the things that we went over tonight are way better than what we would end up getting from the Sony, live action Spider-Verse stuff. So,
dude, totally. This is so good. And have fucking Sandman punch a Tyrannosaurus Rex or something
as he's a skyscraper. Yeah.
God fucking Zilla.
And there's like time travel portals, so there would have been some other stuff going on. Like it's insane. But like he went there. Like it could have just been just like, oh, it's in New York City and he fights a bunch of criminals and we're just adapting the first annual of Amazing Spider-Man annual #1 and of the Sinister Six, and that's it. And I'm sure it would have had its fans, but I think that it would have just been, it wouldn't be as exciting. It would just be kind of playing it safe. And Goddard was not about playing it safe. He wanted to go all the way.
Exactly. I mean, hopefully he has the pull to, keep doing what he's doing and keep I don't know, what's he doing now? Do you know? Like Daredevil?
He's not doing Daredevil Born Again.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll see what happens with that.
So, yeah, but I'd love to see him behind, some sort of property with this level of because I imagine they're probably not going to do a Sinister Six movie. I imagine he's not going to just be able to do this just with Tom Holland instead. I just feel like we're not at that point.
With all these pulls too, like GOG and Savage Land and all that, Mm-hmm. Sure, they've probably been. Savage Land was in the '90s cartoon, et cetera, but it feels like this motherfucker reads comics.
Yes, yeah,
right.
Also, with him doing Daredevil stuff too.
With it, him doing Daredevil, knowing Daredevil, living and breathing it. Yeah, he knows that shit. Yeah, man, God. So Marvel peaked at that Kingpin.
Yeah,
Infinity War was good, but goddamn, that Kingpin was amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so. Is that pretty much it for this script?
That is it. Unless something leaks out that, more stuff leaks out about it. But we'll cover some of the other crazier shit that I heard about that may or may not be true in the Patreon. But for the Sinister Six stuff, that is superhero stuff you should know.
Coming soon from Neuverse Creative.
Riddle me this, Fred! What is everything to someone and nothing to everyone else? Your mind.
In an uncertain world, in a chaotic time, justice wears a mask.
Batman does not kill? What if those slain during his fight with Jack Napier, the Joker?
Love is a game.
Let's just say I could write a heck of a paper on why a grown man dresses up like a flying rodent.
Bats aren't rodents, Dr. Meridian.
Power is a machine.
Question marks, Mr. Wayne? My work raises too many question marks! Here's one for you. Why hasn't anybody put you in your place?
And revenge is a trap.
The bat must die.
Courage now.
Let's save your bat butt back there. I think a little appreciation is in order.
Truth always.
Who's the boy wonder, Batman?
Experience the original Batman forever. Finally performed in the style of the Burtonverse.
I see without seeing. To me, darkness is as clear as daylight. What am I?
Batman 3, based on the screenplay by Lee and Janet Scott Batchelor with Akiva Goldsman, adapted by Ben Juan from Superhero Stuff You Should Know.
My parents were murdered in front of me. I was just a kid. I can't remember exactly what happened. But now there's a new element. A red leather book.
Coming soon.
Big thanks to Dan for gathering the visuals for the YouTube experience. This may have been my favorite Spider-Man episode that we've done so far, actually. Just from how cool some of these ideas were.
Because this that we were covering concept art for something that was made, but this was something that was really cool that wasn't made, and to get insight on that was cool. And also put this out into the universe. Drew Goddard, if you're out there, your assistant listens to us or whatever. If you want to reveal things more, we'd love to have you on the show.
Yes, call us.
Yeah.
Superhouse
Superhousepodcast at gmail.com.
Yep. Moving into the comments. So, one of our fans, the imaginative hobbyist, a very talented fan artist, tagged us in this that I wanted to kind of address, which is from a scooper I've never heard of named Can We Get Some Toast, saying Patty Jenkins' take for her canceled Wonder Woman 3 with Gal Gadot was set in the present day of the DCEU after Justice League and her cameo in The Flash. It would have featured other DC characters, one of them being Ben Affleck's Batman. So this has been going around, but I'll just say this. I don't know who this Can We Get Some Toast is, and this could very easily be made up. Like the idea that, there was going to be a Wonder Woman movie and it was going to be set in the present-day DCEU. I'm like, okay, that was kind of a given. You don't have to be a scooper in order to know that. And like,
why are people even giving this the time of day?
I don't know. And this is not against imaginative hobbyist for tagging us. I'm not really. I think he just wanted us to know.
Okay, yeah.
But in terms of like the attention that this was given, I'm just like, this just sounds like some random bullshit. And I was like, it was going to feature Ben Affleck's Batman. I'm just like, yeah, you're probably saying that because he had cameos in The Flash and Aquaman 2. Like,
yeah, so it's like
could very easily be made up.
It's kind of a nothing sandwich or whatever you call it, whatever expression you want to use there.
Yeah,
there's not much there,
I would have been more interested if it had like who the villain was gonna be or what Diana's arc was gonna be, but instead it's just like, it's in present day and has other DC characters. I'm just like, I could have fucking told you that. We could have said that on the podcast and gotten 1 million hits. I guess maybe that's what we should do. But
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but I'm. This is one of these things that I'm like, we're in such a big period of misinformation that if I'm going to give it the time of the day, it's going to be saying it's probably bullshit in our episodes.
Yeah, I don't really buy any of this. It doesn't, it's fine.
Nothing
whatever.
sandwich, like you
thank
said.
you for giving us the comment though. That's cool.
Yeah, thanks. Next one comes from Rye Guy, saying, phenomenal stuff as always, guys. This was a real treat to sit down to, thoroughly enjoyed, and had never seen some of this stuff. He was commenting on the Unmade Spider-Man 4 episode, the last time we did Unmade Spider-Man. Also, I really love Andrew's love for X-Men. I grew up with the animated series as most did. Nothing beats those great Spidey, X-Men, or BTAS 90s cartoons. True. My introduction to the X-Men was through my stepbrother growing up. He had a lot of the Topps trading cards and watched the animated series all the time. I adore X1 and X2. I'll never forget that first flick coming out in 2000. It has a really special place with me, and I've collected a lot from that first movie over the years. At any rate, I'd absolutely love to hear a deep dive on those first two movies sometime if you're interested, especially X1. Thanks, my dudes. Yes, Andrew, they call me the dude.
Awesome comment. I feel like we haven't heard from you in a while, Rye Guy. That's cool. You're chiming in again. I'm kind of saving my full gush for whenever we actually do the X-Men episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, I mean, God, that X-Men cartoon like was very foundational for me. I mean, just to give you a preview of the gush, I remember loving how deep it was and how serious it was. I was just the perfect age for that, I think. And and it like having like a season arc just about kind of thing. I don't know. It was just like there was a lot going on there. It was just treated very well, and yeah, I love that stuff, man. I did watch a Spider-Man cartoon too a little bit, but X-Men and BTAS were kind of the top at that time period. So yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it eventually. When the 2000 movie came out, I got a plain white T-shirt. In 2000 I was 16, so it was anyway. So like, and I drew with a Sharpie. This is kind of shitty in some way, but I drew with a Sharpie the Cyclops like little patch things that come up onto the shirt and wore that to the movie. There's a picture somewhere of me wearing this, I think. I took a picture with my friend, and when we were going to the movie theater, me and my friend were like da 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 da, like we were fucking jazzed for the fucking movie, dude. And yeah, I mean we liked it enough. I remember thinking, where the fuck is Gambit? But anyway, but yeah,
it's not the same lineup.
Yeah, it's not the same lineup. Who the fuck is Toad? But yeah, yeah, we've gotten a lot of comments about X-Men stuff. And we're gonna get to it at some point. Don't you think, Ben? Yeah.
We'll get there, especially with Deadpool 3 coming out. Kind of putting what looks like the last chapter on that Fox X-Men era after like 30 years or so, or 24 years or so. Yeah, we'll definitely get there. It's just there's just a lot to go through, especially with the development, of the different scripts leading up to the first X-Men. Again, like whenever we cover a time where like all the scripts leading up to the first of something, there's usually a lot of variations. There's a lot to read through. So
let us know in the comments like what's the best one. If you guys have read the scripts before, we'll try to gauge which ones are the best, so we don't waste Ben's time going through like 40 fucking scripts. Like if we can narrow it down to like one or two, that would be awesome.
I've also seen requests on the early versions of the David Koepp script for the first Spider-Man 2002. It's just on David Koepp's website. He very generously has all his drafts. It's just like there's like 8 of them on his website. So let us know what specific ones you guys want us to go over, because I know there's one that has Electro and Sandman. There's another one with Green Goblin and Doc Ock in it. So let us know which specific drafts are there, because it could just be I spent an afternoon reading through the script that is basically what we got in the movie anyway. I'd rather read the ones that have something that's really different, like Doc Ock threatening Jameson in that one concept art that we went over that one time.
Right.
So, but yeah, we'll get there. We've got a lot. We've got a lot. So, but thank you, Right Guy.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Volrite X commented on our Amazing Spider-Man 2 concept art, saying, "I'm actually surprised you guys didn't point out something. That costume at 5245, which is the one that was kind of black and red, is Miles' Spider-Man suit, just with added boots and a pattern on the forearms. Possibly not intended for anything other than an artist trying out different stuff, but still." I mean, yeah, it is. It's also one where I don't know. I don't necessarily like the idea of Miles' suit being given to Peter. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's why it wasn't in my mind probably.
Yeah. Same here. But that aside, I actually find the final remark quite interesting of how the MCU made people more accepting of comic book elements, since right now there's a bit of a paradigm shift. Like, sure, back then it was great Guardians had a living tree and a talking raccoon, but now, for example, people are wanting for these characters to wear more comic-accurate costumes instead of weird pronunciations. Comic-accurate costumes instead of over-designed suits that all feel homogenous, especially when concept art shows much better alternatives were considered, or even worse, they just make them for a one-off joke about how ridiculous it looks, kind of like the yellow spandex joke in 2000
X-Men, yeah.
Being the most notorious. I can see that. Like, you don't get to see the Guardians in the official blue uniforms until Volume 3. And Rocket doesn't embrace the title Rocket Raccoon until Volume 3.
What the fuck is a raccoon?
Right. But it was such a beautiful... It was so earned when you got that, because you never really expected that was going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I didn't realize Volume 3 was about him finally becoming Rocket Raccoon. I just thought, This is just the last Guardians movie.
I love that he's like the main character too.
Yeah.
I mean, like
The secret protagonist.
they made a fucking Rocket Raccoon movie essentially, and it was really good. Like,
It's really emotional.
just goes to show you, man. Like, this is a tangent, but it's going to definitely connect. Scott Aukerman, the guy that does Comedy Bang Bang, he's a cool guy. He loves comics too. He's a comedian, big podcast. But he said he was offered to write Transformers way back in the day, or make a pass at it or something. And he said he wrote like something very comedic because he couldn't take Transformers seriously. Like, he just thought it was a ridiculous concept. This guy's written Deadpool comics too, by the way. He's in the game, for sure. He's not like anti-nerd or anything, but he just, I don't know, he has a thing against Transformers. And my thing is like, look, the Transformers movies weren't, I mean, other than Bumblebee, none of them been like super great. But the point is, like Rocket Raccoon, like Transformers, whatever form they fucking take, give them just fucking human emotions that we can connect with. And then, problem fucking solved, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. People think this is so difficult when it's not.
Yeah. No, for sure. Volrite says, all that said, great show as usual, guys. I've never seen most of these before, especially that scorpion-looking one.
Yeah.
And now we know kind of somebody's plan for Scorpion in fighting Spider-Man 2099. I was not expecting that when going through the research for this episode. So, that was cool.
Yeah.
All right, on to the shout-outs.
Oh, man, we want to thank, let's see, Devin H, JPF, Devin S, Carlos R, Jose D, and the rest of you guys. Thank you so much, other supporters as well. And we've told you about our friends, and we'd like you to do us a favor.
We want you to tell all your friends about us.